All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Please stand. I get Mr. Judkins to lead us into the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Be seated. We do, before we get started, we do have a sign-up sheet for any public comments that are available for tonight's meeting. So can I get a motion for approval of tonight's consent agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion by Mr. Caldwell, second by Ms. Best. Any discussion?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. In your consent agenda is a contract for R.J. Young, and that was a contract that was submitted to you for the consent agenda, but we found a few things that we needed to change on that. So we provided you with an updated copy. It's a copier lease that we've had for a few years that we're actually changing a few things. So before you approve that contract and consent, I wanted you to have an updated copy before you do that. So again, you have that in front of you. Minimal changes, we're just cleaning up some of the language in the contract.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second, so is there any discussion on this? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we do not have anyone signed up for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to introduce a guest. I'm glad to see that he's here. Jerry Lassiter is the founding president of the Experimental Aircraft Association Chapter 1700
Correct.
in McMinnville.
Correct.
The EAA's newest chapter.
Right.
And you're off to a roaring start. So my compliments.
Thanks to all the people in McMinnville. It's been a great start.
Well, you're off to a great start, and Jerry is also with the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. Visiting with us this evening, he and Derek Rowe, who presented at McMinnville Rotary last week, talking about the possibility of perhaps aviation training as an addition to our high school curriculum, another opportunity for our students. And I'm assured of Jerry's strong support and the strong support of everybody in the EAA chapter here. And
Thank you very much.
Derek Rowe, good to have you with us, Jerry.
Appreciate it.
All right, no student advisory report? There's no students, so, all right.
There are no students.
We will move on to recognitions. I will turn that over to Dr. Swallow.
All right, so we're happy to have a bunch of folks with us tonight. So we're going to start with the Certified Employee of the Month. Miss Monty Hillis made that recommendation, so we're going to ask her and our Employee of the Month to come up front. I know they're going to love it. It's the way life goes when you do this. So I'm going to ask Miss Hillis if she'll read what she wrote, and then we'll recognize Miss Woodley.
Few employees have devoted their life to the students of Warren County like Regina Woodley has over the last 35 plus years. Beginning as a speech teacher traveling among various schools to settling at Centertown, where she served as a 5th grade, an ESL, and an RTI teacher, she touched countless students. The last 10 years she has worked tirelessly at Bobby Ray as the instructional coordinator, influencing masses of students as she coached and trained their teachers, oversaw testing, and touched every aspect of the school from budgets to discipline and instruction. She's impacted school growth and scores, but most importantly, she's influenced the people she has worked with, loved our students, and been a resource and friend to all. Without a doubt, Regina is deserving of the Employee of the Month, but she is so much more than that. She is irreplaceable. As employees retire and replacements are sought, there are some whose influence has been so profound that they cannot be restored. Her morning greeting of welcome to Bobby Ray, the best school in Warren County, will ring hollow without her this fall, and I will truly be lost without my friend, confidant, and right arm. Please honor her with this distinction for her lifetime of work and service.
Well, I have no idea how she made that through without crying. Nevertheless, congratulations. We're going to miss you, certainly. So, all right, Regina gets in the middle. You can handle that. A little smile. I believe there's a nice little swag bag here for you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, our classified employee of the month is Miss Jane Birchfield, and Mr. Brian Matheny made that recommendation, so I'm going to ask both of them to come up and ask Mr. Matheny to read his recommendation.
Okay, this is not fair to say that I am the one that made this recommendation when most of our staff has been encouraging me for the last half of a year to do something. And so finally we sat down and discussed it. We all kind of had input on what was put here, but again, this does not justify everything that Jane does for us, but I'm going to read what we wrote. It says, I would like to nominate Miss Jane Birchfield for Employee of the Month. Miss Jane exceeds all expectations that we could have listed or expected. Having our meals delivered to our school was a new experience for us all. Miss Jane has worked very hard to get this process to a point where it is effortlessly and smooth. She communicates well with our staff to ensure we have everything our students need in regard to their meals. During testing times, our meal times needed to be slightly altered. Miss Jane was very kind in accommodating our needs. She always makes sure that our students have the same menu options available to them that are available to other schools. She brings joy and a smile every time she enters our building. Our school is very thankful for Miss Jane. This last part said she is like part of our staff, but actually she's like our family. She is definitely our lunch hero, and we are thankful for her.
So Brian cried through that. So we kept it in the family. Congratulations. All right. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. Gotta go watch Tennessee win the championship.
So with that being said, Mr. Chairman, this is typically when we take a break to allow anybody that would like to go the opportunity to go. You are welcome to stay. No. Well, that sounds good stuff. I have no authority. Thanks, Brian. Congratulations. Right good.
Good, how are you? Thank you, Bob. Thank y'all. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Haley.
Bye. Bye. See y'all.
That was just us.
Well, we kind of emptied it out, didn't we? Yeah.
That's what they said to me on the way out. They said, "You sure know how to clean out a room."
All right, we'll go on to facility and resources.
All right, David, you want to do this, or you want me to do it? You do it.
The construction updates are very few this month. I'm gonna start with the COVID center out here. I made a note here, it says it has sheetrock now. It's got one coat of paint on it. I mean, it looks good and everything. All the ductwork is in above the ceiling. The HVAC system is just about ready to go. Hopefully they can get it going in the next few days so that while they're working in there, they can have some cooling with this hot weather. That'd be nice for them. Ceiling grid's going up for the drop ceiling. All the painting on the excuse me, the outside is done. Matches the other building. Where the roof ties into this roof, there's still just a little bit of work that needs to be done. A few shingles and this and that and the other just needs to be finished up. Once the grid gets in, so they get rid of the lifts and all of that, they're going to start the flooring. I'm sure you saw the water line where it was dug across the road and across, that water line is in. We've got a new meter set down there. All the septic system is in, everything's ready to go on all that. We're getting real close to finishing that up. It can't be soon enough, right? Another project we've got going on is at Centertown. The fire alarm system was updated with the new addition. We done some upgrades, some updating, and more or less we just done away with the old system and put a whole new system in to take care of that addition plus the rest of the building because of some new fire codes and this, that, and the other. But it is done. It's been inspected. It passed inspection. We've got a CO on it, and about the only thing left to do with that is to disconnect the old system to get it out of the building and out of the way. All of our other building projects that we had going on was pretty much done, complete. I did want to add, there's a new addition that we've started in just the last 2 or 3 weeks of a classroom addition to the psychology building over at the high school, and this will be for the high school annex. The high school annex. We're Grant and
It's the building of it used to be Pre-Pioneer Learning.
yes.
Over there next to your shop.
Next to my office, and this is just so that we can get the high school annex on the high school property, so that we can get everybody together up there. That's it as far as the construction update.
It's a benefit when we've got a maintenance crew that can do that and save us lots of money.
Yeah, we're trying that new addition. We're trying to do a lot of it in-house.
Any questions?
Report, David. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
All right, moving on to operations report. Dr. Wallace.
All right, so in your packets, you've got, in your agenda or your packet that was sent out on email, School Nutrition 2024-2025 revised budget approval. So as we were going through the process for you all have already approved the school nutrition budget. It's in your electronic version. I'm sorry. I tried to make that, but I didn't do a real good job explaining that. But you approved a budget in our May meeting, but as it was going through the county approvals, they noticed that there was a calculation error that actually caused us to have some errors in those line items. And so school nutrition went back and revised that. And ultimately, when we got those calculation errors, we were having to go into fund balance a little bit more than we were comfortable with. So we revised that budget. School nutrition revised that budget and submitted that to you again. Really what they did was adjust some of the revenues, and that is the benefit of being able to do the budget a little bit later. We have a more black and white vision of what those revenues are going to be. And so ultimately what you have in your packet is a revised budget for school nutrition. Just like for you all to consider approval of that tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I will move for adoption as recommended by the administration of the revision to the school nutrition budget for 24-25.
Okay, we've got a motion by Mr. Zeckman. Do I get a second? Second. A second by Mr. Zeckman. Got any discussion over this? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for doing that. Just to get in the way of giving you an idea, that budget, as well as our general schools budget, is also on the county commission docket for tonight. That should take place about 6:30. So hopefully we'll have an idea of what that looks like. All right, the next item on our operations report, we also have a budget amendment from school nutrition. Another calculation error, this time not on our part, unfortunately. or fortunately, but we are having to move $5,000 from equipment into contracted services, because with our contract with Portion Pack Chemical Service, they had keyed in the wrong number, and so we ended up having to finish the year with some money that was outstanding. And so in order to pay that contract, we need to move some money out of equipment and into contracted services. So that is a budget amendment, and it's submitted to you for your consideration tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move for adoption of the school nutrition budget amendment number 3.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Zeckman. Can you get a second? I'll second. A second by Mr. Colwell. Got any discussion over this? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
All right, thank you. So Durham Transportation Services, if you'll remember, we bid that, our transportation services agreement out 3 years ago. And the thing that we try to do in that, when we bid that out, is to do a 5-year contract with a 3-year initial contract and 1-year renewals after that. So with Durham, we have completed the first 3 years, and so what has been submitted to you tonight is just an extension of that current contract for 1 year. This would come to you again next year for a 1-year extension. And basically what the contract says is that we, as Warren County Schools, are agreeing to an additional year. Durham Transportation is agreeing to 1 additional year. And so, again, as we submit that contract to you tonight for your consideration.
All right, can I get a motion to accept the Durham Services 1-year contract extension? Make a motion. Got a motion by Mr. Judkins and a second by Mr. Bennett. Sorry. Any discussion over this?
The only question is, from what I'm seeing here, we're talking about a 3.0% escalation.
And that's what the contract calls for.
Okay.
And so we had a request there to maybe consider that going up, but ultimately with the language of the contract, we believe we're bound to that 3%, and that's what's happened every year.
Okay, I'm good with that. Of course, you know, when we talk about student transportation, you know the question I'm going to ask is, what about our EV buses?
Yeah. So ultimately, we met about that 6 months ago, and we ultimately have no future direction at this point. We reached out to the company, and so as bad as I hate to say to you, I have no update or direction on that until the company communicates back with us.
Well, I'm just going to just humbly suggest that we make another contact with them, and if need be with the grant-making body, which I believe is the EPA in this case, and see if we can inspire them to act with a little bit more urgency and energy. Yeah, we're talking about energy here. This seems to be the most laid back, inert company we've dealt with, and we don't even know why we're dealing with them. They somehow jumped into this process, and maybe one of these days we'll got that question answered possibly.
If I recall, I was thinking one of those EV bus systems filed for Chapter 11.
And that I don't believe that's the case in this situation, but I can actually check into it. We had a contact all along the way, so if you remember, just to refresh everybody's memory, poor Dina, I think what drove her into part-time work is the fact that we applied for an EV bus prior, and we did not receive that grant. So in the second go-around, as Bill noted, that the EPA got involved, and so lots of companies started filing on behalf of school systems. And so we you agreed to enter into a contract with a company that filed on our behalf. They received that grant, and ultimately we are still waiting on what that looks like, because there was some communication at the beginning. They began to reach out to McMinnville Electric to talk about what the power that was going to have to go in for the charging stations, and ultimately we've come to a standstill. So not McMinnville Electric's fault, not our fault, but ultimately we are still waiting to know exactly what it's going to take going forward. Now, part of that could be the lead time on these EV buses is extremely long, 18 months to 2 years at this point. So that may be where we are, but I will reach back out to them in the next few weeks to find out where we are.
Well, you know, Bluebird, they're probably at completion or nearing completion of that new plant in Georgia, devoted strictly to EVs. And the other thing that we have to think about is the charging station. There's going to be some lead time on that, working with McMinnville Electric System. So if we can, let's find out what's going, what's happening, if anything. And that question may have to go to the EPA, if you can find anybody in the EPA bureaucracy who can give you an answer.
Yes,
I just say good luck. So.
All right, any more discussion over that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, moving on to curriculum and achievement.
Nope, sorry, I apologize. I've got a couple additions. Now this is on your table, all right? This is a statement of work from NIET. All right, and so this is an updated statement of work. You are well aware of our partnership with NIET that we've had. We are proposing to continue that partnership. You already approved one contract with them, and then the second one that has come through, we submitted that, and NIET had honored a piggyback bid with another district. And so once we accepted that, when the second one came through, we asked for the piggyback to also honor that same contract. And so ultimately what you would be approving tonight, if you so choose, is continued services with NIET. And you can see this was signed off on by Mr. Mansfield, and we've had great success with NIET, and again, we'll submit that to you for your consideration tonight.
Can I get a motion to accept the contract with NIET?
So moved.
I've got a motion by Mr. Zeckman.
Second.
Got a second by Ms. Bass. Any discussion over this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Hold on just 1 second, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, so also you have some, what we typically do in the June meeting is clean up budget amendments. And so you have what we're calling budget amendment number 12, which we hope will be the end of that, but simply also because it's June 24th and the budget expires June 30th. So you can see on the first page, those are the first 1, 2, 3, 4 are balance accruals, which basically is meaning that we're paying in July for work that's being done in June. And so there's always an accrual in several lines there. We always have that, and it's minimal through that, but again, that's for salary services. There is an office of the principal, a whopping $10, but there was a $5 overage, and so we're moving 10 to get that covered. And then early childhood education, we had a teacher and a TA that were on a leave of absence, and so we're needing to move about $7,000 into the sub line because we had not counted on that leave of absence in that. So a total of $15,910 in budget amendments. That's actually, in my opinion, a pretty good small amount for the end of the year in budgets. So again, submitting budget amendment line item transfers number 12 for your consideration.
All right, can I get a motion on the budget amendments?
Motion to approve the general purpose budget amendment number 12.
All right, I've got a motion by Mr. Bass, second by Mr. Colwell. Any discussion over this? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
The last two things that I have in operations are just to give you an indication of we're starting to get some test scores back, and we don't have all of them back, but I will tell you that I'm very encouraged with some of the things that we've gotten back so far. And so just to give you an idea, out of 26 of our grade levels and our tested subjects, so remember we test in ELA, math, science, and social studies. So across all those grade levels, and of course at the high school, English 1, English 2, our math is not back yet. because it's a new test, but also biology and U.S. history. So that equates to 26 different tests across grade levels. And in 17 of those areas, we went up from a year ago. And so 17 is an encouraging number. We had several, we have a lot of great areas, and I'll give you a more comprehensive approach in August when we have more data. But one area that I really want to call out is that we had a new math adoption. There were new standards, there was a new book, new curriculum, and our teachers worked extremely hard. And out of 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all of those areas but 4th grade went up, and some of them significantly. 2nd grade went up by 10%, and that's a significant movement. But that's also a tribute to a lot of hard work in getting into those new standards, because typically when you have a new standards and new curriculum, you see things go down before you see things go up. And so I spent a lot of time over the last 2 weeks trying to get to an area to where we could understand, because they send us these files and basically there are 6,000 students and you've got to figure it out and put it together. And so we worked really hard to try to get to that. They did release that publicly this afternoon at 3 o'clock. And so we got more information today at 3 o'clock. We'll work through that. And again, in August, I will give you a more comprehensive idea of what we did. But I did want to report, just because I'm excited, cautiously optimistic of some progress that we're making. And so also, you'll be seeing here in the next couple of days that we had some national recognition. NIET, that we just talked about, chooses some what they call education fellows. And we had one of our instructional coaches, Haley Wood, that applied to be a national fellow. And she was announced this afternoon that she's going to be a part of that. So she'll be representing Tennessee and Warren County Schools in that program. And so I told her she's having a big month. She got an assistant principal position at Dibble, and she's still going to be doing some coaching. But I always want to report to you all a lot of the good things that are going on. So with that, I will be quiet and let you move on to curriculum and achievement.
All right. Curriculum and achievement, we go. So we are up for our second reading on the policy 6.312, the prohibition of possession of use of personal electronic devices. So we need to read through that again and vote on that for a final.
You
or,
can, or you don't have to.
Or we read through it last month, and we have that in front of us. I just want to say that one of the things, piggybacking off what Dr. Swallow said about our achievement scores and our test scores already starting to be on the rise, and that is one of our main focuses here. We've talked about that. The first day that I walked in and met Dr. Swallows in his office after becoming elected, that was one of the things that stood out to me, was his high expectations. And I believe that is on us to do that, not ever walk away from high expectations in anything that we do in life. And what I've said multiple times over the last few months as we've talked about this policy and it's come up and we've worked through it and studied on it, and I just want to thank everybody that's helped out through this and done the research. But what I've said many times is we have an obligation as a board. We can set these policies, and we can do all we can do to get the best environment for our students to learn. And that is, we can't control anything else outside of those school hours, but we can control that. And I think it's, I just want to thank everybody for putting this all together. And before we take a vote on this, I just want to say this could be very historic. I do believe that if this passes tonight, we'll be the first school system in the state of Tennessee to pass a policy like this, and I do believe that we will be followed by many once this gets out. And I think we'll be getting calls about how this all come together. So I just want to put that out there before we take this vote, and just want to thank everybody for their hard work on this.
These very encouraging results that Dr. Swallows talked about don't happen by accident.
That's right.
They reflect a lot of very deliberate, purposeful, intentional work on the part of principals, teachers, coaches, including Dr. Swallows and his staff, for setting high expectations and saying basically our work ethic is we're going to accomplish this, and I think we have. I believe that this policy would remove a major impediment to our further progress. Teachers, as hard as they try, they cannot compete with the World Wide Web to keep the attention of students. They just can't do it. So I believe that this policy is the appropriate action to take at this time. And I'm not suggesting that we follow the lead necessarily of other districts. But one of the largest public school districts in the country, the Los Angeles Unified School District, did this last week. The Marietta, Georgia district did this, I think, announced over the weekend. And we won't be the first in the nation, but we may be the first in Tennessee.
All right, can I get we'll get further discussion. Can I get a motion to approve policy number 6.312, prohibition of possession and use of personal electronic devices?
Motion to approve prohibition of possession of electronic devices.
We got a motion by Ms. Best and a second by Mr. Zeckman. Okay, any discussion now?
Mr. Chairman, I was sharing this with Dr. Swallows earlier today. I thought it was 6, but currently it's 4. There's 4 states, Florida, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Vermont, that's contemplating state legislation to ban electronic devices in all public schools. It's in the talks of legislation, but I feel like, this is where it's headed. So if we get a jump start on it, maybe we could be ahead of the game a little bit. But like I said, there's states that are contemplating statewide bans in public schools.
Are we still looking into which process that we're going to use? Are we going to use the bag situation or the locker situation to secure these phones?
I think that'll be discussed with administrators of each school and see what's best. I think there's different ways we can go about that, and I think what would work for the high school may not work for middle school or some other, but I think that will be.
We haven't had any.
Contemplates anything that is school provided.
So I've had several conversations in the last few weeks with some schools that are doing the bags. And I don't want to commit to one way or the other because I really haven't talked to our principals about it. I felt like you all needed to take action and then we would go into hyperspeed to come up with a process. And I think a lot of people are seeing some success with the bags. Again, my concern being able to get them that quick. But we've talked about that, identifying the money and being able to move that. We may have to ask you all to have a special call meeting in order to get that funding available, but we're going to work on that starting in the morning. But I think a lot of people are having some success with the bags, and just to give you an idea of what the bags are, they're magnetized, and so I spoke with an assistant principal who they take their phone and they have to show, so every morning the kids at this high school will take their bag and put it on the desk and they'll do a check of the bag to make sure that they have that in the mornings. And they take the magnet, they attach the bag, and then the phone and the bag stay on the student's person throughout the day, and then at the end you would unlock that. So there are some schools that have gone before us in this, and so we're trying to reach out to get their policies and procedures. And again, I think to Mr. Chairman's point, we'll have to adapt that for our schools throughout the district, because it'll be a little different for a 5th grader than it will be for an 11th grader.
And I think too is that, to bring this back doing our survey that I did, the thing that attracted me the most was the teachers in the classroom. They were all talking about how much better that it would be if we had a policy, so they wouldn't be having to stop and say, turn your phone off, you're not, put it up, or whatever, so they could actually teach. And that was the response. I was really overwhelmed as a response from the teachers.
Doesn't that do your heart good that they'd like to be distraction free?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity, does the phone have to be turned off when it goes in the bag? cause the vibration, if they put it on silent, could be a big hindrance.
You know, again, this is gonna be a battle.
Yeah.
So again, I've gotten some negatives through it as well, because again, kids are intelligent beings, and so one of the things that they're gonna do is they're gonna find an old, out-of-date phone and put that phone in the bag, and when they're asked to show their bag, then we'll see that there is a phone in the bag, but there may be a working phone in the pocket.
Yeah.
So again, we're gonna have to develop some procedures, like Mr. Bennett said, to make sure that we're ready for those things, and we won't be perfect. I can just say that, I'll be honest with you, this board has kind of convinced me, because at the outset of this discussion, just talking about the fact that we're gonna do away with cell phones, that seems like a very tough thing. But what the board has consistently said is that you want to do away with the distractions. That's what we need to focus on. We're never going to get rid of the devices. Look at our table. Every one of us have a device, and I've got 3 sitting here. So we're not going to get rid of the devices, but we've got to find a procedure that helps us limit the distractions. And that's what I think we can focus on.
Well, the other distraction, I think we were aware of this, is to minimize the role of teachers in policing the policy. And it seems to me like where any policing is going to come in is in this scenario that you described, Dr. Swallows, of where they have a non-working phone that they kind of present as their phone, and they keep an actual functioning phone. That might be an area of some enforcement action, but it's going to greatly reduce.
Well, I think what we'll see is once the majority and what the research showed, once about 30 or 40% of the kids are away from that, then the rest of them, it's like, well, there's no sense in me having one if nobody else is going to have one. What good is that going to do me?
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've noticed or heard that, now that, the Surgeon General's going to come out with some warning labels on on screen time and the negative effects on screen time and social media for our kids. So.
Again, and I will tell you, I've gotten some of our employees that have reached out who have said, if we're going to ask kids to do this, we're going to need to do it ourselves. And again, that just gives me great hope, because we've got some great employees that want what's right for our kids. And so we'll be quickly working on some of those procedures, and we won't be perfect with it right off the bat, but consistency and enforcement will be something that are important. And I point back to that we talked about this with the law, with the open doors last year. We were worried about what that was going to look like, and people rose to the occasion and figured it out, and we'll do that same thing here. If you've not voted yet, so if it is passed, then we will rise to the occasion.
And here's the thing, is speaking as the adults and the teachers, it is on us to lead by example. And like you talked about, teachers, they have to be the ones that set this example, and we do too for our kids. And like I said, we can't control what happens on their time, but we can control to a point of what happens inside those classroom hours. And I think that's upon us to do the best we can to limit those distractions, to help our employees and our teachers get the most out of them.
I think some of said to me about the cell phones. You started class, you've got everybody concentration, and then the phone goes off. And here you took 15 minutes to get them back to where you were, and you've lost part of your teaching that you had planned for that 45 or hour period there, and that's why they were welcoming this with what we were doing with open arms.
And I think this is going to be a huge improvement and help boost for our education system, for our students and for our teachers. And I'm ready to. Anybody else got any more discussion on this before we put this up for a vote? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you. Historic, that's right. All right, so we're going on to policies, some more policies. We've got a list here of other policies that are approved on for a first reading.
Mr. Chairman, could you refer a question to Robin, if we could pass some of these en masse, or do we have to do we have to act individually? What's,
You can, if y'all have reviewed them and you don't have any questions, you can go ahead and do that. The reason that I did, so many at one time is that we do have, some of these, a lot of these have to be done by the time school starts. They're like effective now, which we're not in school. And that gives us a chance for y'all to look at them and then also, to make them, available for anybody who else who wants to look at them. And then we'll have a chance to go back over them next meeting. And I will point out that in July, we'll have just been to the school law conference, and they're gonna go over these individually too. All of these policies, with the exception of 2, are just changes required by the new laws. There's 15 in this particular batch, and then I think there's 17 that we'll have to do in July, and some of those we may have to do as a 1 reading, but some of those, I felt like, first of all, we needed some of our administrative folks here to look at them first and work with me on them, and we just needed to get those done, and some of them were just that it's gonna be sort of complicated, and I wanted y'all to hear from Ben Torres and those guys first. But yeah, you can go ahead and pass them in 1 reading, and we can talk about them more in July if you need to.
well, that being the case, Mr. Chairman, I want to move that we adopt on first reading what you see is the first 4 policies listed, 2.403, 3.205, 3.400, 4.201, the class size ratios, skipping on down to 4.600, rating systems, 5.307, 5.404, 5.701, 5.802, 6.319, 5.6121, and 6.4031. One of my favorite topics, the pediculosis. But I'm going to move that we adopt on first reading those policy actions that I mentioned.
So just for clarification for our note taker here, those are all the policies with the exception of 4.213 and 4.301.
Yes, correct.
We have a motion to bundle all of those policies in one. Do we have a second? All except for 2. Got a second by Mr. Judkins. Any discussion on this? I do want to pull out, if you don't mind, to amend that, the 5.6121, because I think that kind of goes back to what we've just discussed. Because this is almost a new policy that's going to go in place. So if you
Mr. Chairman, I'll amend the motion. Let's remove from that package 5.6121, employee acceptable use and internet safety agreement. I would consider that a friendly amendment.
All right, thank you. All right, so we've got a motion now. We've got a second on the amended. Second by Mr. Judkins. All right. Any discussion over all these policies bundled together besides these 3? All right. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. All right. Do you want to specifically take those 2 out? Did you want to talk about anything, or just?
Well, I'm gonna leave those to other board members, if that's okay.
The interscholastic athletes policy.
The family life curriculum and interscholastic athletics.
Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion on those 2?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept policy number 4.213 and 4.301 on first reading, please.
We got a motion by Mr. Colwell. We get a second?
Second.
And a second from Mr. Bennett. Any discussion over those?
Well, these are requirements of the recent state law enactments of the last General Assembly, and I mean, I'm going to vote, just to make this unanimous. I want to vote with it, but I just want to pull those out of the package that I was recommending.
Okay. So we got any more discussion over these 2 policies? Anybody wants to? No. All right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying is that we don't have any choice.
Right, yes.
You know, they've twisted their arm behind their
Yeah.
back, so we have no choice in the matter.
All right, well, the one policy that's not been approved yet is 5.6121, and this, we will read, this is first reading, I know, and just want to let the board be aware that this is, if you look at the policy, it's all in red. This will be a new policy, and I think this really piggybacks off of the policy 6.312 that we just talked about and discussed. And I think as talked about, setting an example, and if somebody'd like to make a motion to pass this first reading on this, we can get to further discussion. I'll make a motion by Mr. Judkins. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Second passing of 5.6121. All right, any discussion? This policy just kind of tightens up the employee internet safety agreement. It kind of piggybacks off what we had talked about with the use of cell phones for our students. This does not, forbid our employees to have cell phones, but this kind of does tie up and tidy up some of the language as far as social media usage. And it does restrict it a little bit, and I think that if we're going to set an example as a board to our students, and we're going to expect, and we're going to high expectations, and we want them to see the benefits of the electronic device policy that we just passed. I think it is, inevitable that our employees are along this line too, that understand the importance of this. So I think this policy is, we got this from Williamson County, and I think it just sets a lot of perimeters and guidelines for our employees, and there's some hard lines in there that we don't need to be crossing when it comes to some social media interactions and stuff with our students. And I think this is imperative that we do this to tighten up on some things, and not believe us in an obligation of certain things.
And I will say that we had, we do have the teacher code of ethics that,
Yes.
that sort of mentions.
That was passed in the earlier package, yeah.
That was, that addresses teacher behavior, of course, but that doesn't address all employee behavior.
Employees,
And
yes.
also, it's great, it says should not, shall, this one is more, Warren County employees shall not communicate with any current Warren County student through personal social media. That is, if the student is not a relative, if the employee receives a request from a current student to connect or communicate through personal social media, he or she shall refuse that request. So that doesn't really leave any gray area,
Yeah.
which is helpful.
Puts more teeth into it.
Right.
Yep.
And, we can talk about the other part, but that's the primary.
think that was the big,
thing that we were.
And it talks about the personal
Also-
social media being maintained separately from any professional social media accounts. And I think we might be able to tidy some of that up with the communications director once that gets going. So we'll have a central location for all of our different social medias going out instead of 10 different people having access and posting stuff out there, so.
And also, employees shall not access personal social media accounts during the workday.
Yes.
I think that's a little more clear too.
I think so,
than it has
too,
been
yeah.
in the past.
And these are not punishment, any of these policies that were not punishment, these are, for the betterment of our school system and our high expectations that we are, that we should expect out of our students and out of our employees. And I think they should expect that out of us too, as both board members. They should expect high expectations, and we want to give Dr. Swallows all the tools necessary to do the best job he can do. And I really think that these two things right here will help a lot, or I hope they do. All right. Any more discussion over this policy? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, any other business?
I just have a question, Dr. Swallows, on our latest property acquisition of the senior center. So what's our progress, and what's the expected timeline for taking occupancy?
So they, in the contract, it gave them 45 days, and they've already actually vacated the smaller building, the thrift store, it's moved to the mall. But they're gonna keep the senior center until they can get more established, and so, we're gonna, take our time with that and make sure they have all the opportunity they need to get where they need to, because we don't, I believe, the board minutes at some point said it was vacant, and so it caused a stir on social media thinking that the seniors were gonna be kicked out, and we are not gonna kick them out. I wanna say that publicly. We wanna give them the opportunity to have them do all that they normally do, and then they will move. But again, according to the contract, they've got 45 days to do that. At that time, they would begin paying us a small nominal fee to rent the facility. I don't anticipate that that's gonna happen. So hopefully by August, we'll have an opportunity to move in. As we've said, there will be some renovations to that building that will take place, but we're working through that and starting that conversation.
We're still on that, the original concept was to have some of our CTE programs there.
Yes, sir. That is the whole goal. It is a CTE grant, so that there's no wiggle room there. They're
Okay.
gonna have to put together, it's gonna be a showcase area for our programs and all the things that go over, so our middle school students can go and actually see what the programs that are available to them in the high school. And then in turn, it will also give our high school students and all of our 9 through 12 students the opportunity to go and showcase some of the things that they do and work during the day. And we're really excited about it. Some places have done some really innovative things, and so to have that property is going to give us an opportunity to do that.
Maybe we can get some aviation in there for this.
This one?
Maybe we can get some aviation in there.
Yeah, maybe we've got our aviation program in there, okay. I love it.
All right, any other business? I'm gonna get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Mr. Bennett. Second by Mr. Jenkins. All in favor? All right. Go Vols, we got 8 minutes.
We need to have a ball game on every
Oh, man.
Good to see you, Chris.
Hey, good to see you, Mr. Louder. We're gonna work with you. You try to get stuff going.
Well, we'll put together a proposal.
Okay.
So you'll have some to work with.
All right, Dan Cummins already hit me up today about. Did he? Yeah, we're coming out.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well, absolutely.
I don't work he still carries around like
Sounds like, Mr. Chairman, we got things underway and moving, and you're gonna come up with some kind of written.
We've already started. These are good. There'll be a full fleet set, you know exactly what it's doing.
I'm excited about that.
That is great. That's great. Hey, Jerry, thank you so much.
Thank you.
There you go.
I've got one. Oh, you did give me one the other day.
Okay.
There, I've got it sitting on my table.
Well, that sounds like hydrogen, doesn't it?
That's the reason they butted heads on. They wouldn't take the bullet for each side.
Make sure Dina has this.
Basically, wasn't no big deal, but I didn't want to share it. Really.
All right.
I'm good, how are you?
We'll, for TV.